Welcome back to the shop and episode 2 of my sister-in-law's new shutters. We're going to call them Sarah's shutters from now on because that's her name, Sarah. Some of you are wondering, I'm sure, why do we pick African mahogany and mahogany in general to make these shutters out of? Keep in mind these shutters have to last at least 50 years. They're going to be out in the weather. They have to be on made of a stable, rot-resistant lumber. Those choices would have been Western red cedar, Atlantic white cedar, or Northern white cedar, cypress, or mahogany. Well, of all those woods, what Dennis had available in enough abundance was the mahogany. A little more expensive than the other woods, but we do buy it as rough sawn and kiln dried, so it's not nearly as expensive as buying it from another, one of those hardware dealers that, you know the type. You walk in the door and a board this big is $25. These two, which are 10 feet, you can't see, they're 10 feet long. These are going to become rails and stiles for the first two. I have one other piece of wood, here's the before picture, that I milled and cut down to size to run through the table saw to make the louvers. The louvers will be 1/4 inch thick, 1.5 inches wide, and then milled for the round over. So I'm going to be sitting here running these blocks through the saw for a while. I'm not going to film that. Show you the after. So the picture I just showed you is before, and I'll show you the stack of after. 124 louvers plus about 10 spares. So that's the next thing. Let's get on to cutting out those louvers now for Sarah's shutters. Well, okay then. A bit of time spent at the table saw. I think totally I've got about 3.5 hours in these between the milling and all that. 144 slats out of that stack of wood that I showed you earlier. Here's a picture of it again. What I have left from that stack of wood is this. One little block here and some ones that didn't quite come out that well and some waste. I also tested my jig for the mortises to hold the slats, hold the column slats in the shutters, and did a test cut. Found that it fits great, perfect, just enough slap, and it's just the right length. And I just have to round over these edges to fit into that mortise. That was time consuming and also boring. So think about this for a minute. I took these blocks of wood, I ripped them out 1/4 inch this way, and then I had to rip them again to the width. Long, tedious, repetitive work. I cannot stress enough how you must pay attention to what you're doing when you're doing long, tedious, repetitive work. I've had a few accidents deep in the past where I got into that black hole, that for target fixation, and wound up breaking something or having a problem. So every once in a while, I had to stop, walk away, get a drink of bug juice. But there they are. The next step, of course, is to mill that other stock and get the rails and stiles out of the ones we're going to build soon. And then go get those off to Sarah, and then we have to build 2 more, which means we have to go get some more wood. We just got enough to do the first 2, I think, and all the slats, or louvers, depending on what you want to call them. They're slats, or louvers, whatever. But there they are. 144, more than what I need, but you always need spares. Now to round over the sides to fit into the slots I'm going to cut with the jig. I've set up the router table with a 1/4 inch beading bit. It's a double bead, I'm using one of course. And I run a test piece through it. So I ran one of my spares, which you always have to have spares. There's the initial cut I made, test cut, and it fits perfectly in there with the edges rounded over. So let me show you what I mean by the setup I have. And there's the beading bit. Like I said, it's a double stack beading bit, a profile bit, but I'm only using one of the 1/4 inch round over sections of the bit. I have feather board set to push it to the fence and down, so I just have to shove the pieces of wood through the system to get one side done, then flip around and do the other side, and all of them. So this is, again, long, tedious, boring work. So of course I'm not going to film this, but I'll show you the aftermath when we're done. they're done. All 144 of them. Some may be wondering why I just didn't make a big long ones and then run those through here. A little bit of a space limitation, and half a dozen, 1/6 of the other. It only took me about 45 minutes, 50 minutes to do these. And there's 144 of them, and they're now the right length, the right thickness, and they fit nicely into the slot for the louvers that will be in the frames of the shutters. A couple of things to note. First thing was I added another feather board because when I ran a couple of pieces through, they tended to walk away from the fence a little bit at the end. So I put another feather board to capture them so they stay against the fence. Used a push stick, of course, to push them through as you saw in the video. But what else you saw in the video was I was wearing gloves. Why was I wearing gloves? Well, they're not going to protect me. They're not going to protect you. Well, gloves like this, with these fingertips, are going to give you is a warning. If you have to go in here and you accidentally get too close to the bit, and accidents can happen, this will give you a warning. You'll feel a flutter against the glove before you'll feel anything in your finger, so you're basically going to pull your hand up. So that's what they were for, just for a warning, just in case. Now, I never got close to the bit in putting all of these through, so that was fine. So now for the next step is to finish milling all the wood out and start the mortise and tenon joinery, and of course the mortises for these.